Hello, everyone, and welcome to another whole series. We are continuing our exploration of the infinite space of small here in the Chicago storefront ecosystem, and we are super stoked to welcome back to the whole series. I think it had a different name last time, or I could be wrong. But we're stoked to have Transcript Productions joining us and one of the founding artistic director, Maddy Shilts. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, hello everybody. I am honored to be on the whole series. My name is Maddy Shilts. My pronouns are they, he. I am the founding artistic director of Transcript Productions. A little bit about our brief production history and how we came to be. I've been wanting to start a production company for queer individuals since college. And I've known for a long time that that is not a one-person job. And so it's just kind of been in the back burner of my mind for a number of years. And I had the absolute honor of being able to produce the Lightning Thief musical in 2024. And so that was my professional producing debut. And that was an intentionally queer production that we leaned into all queer aspects and trans aspects of the original Greek mythology. And that paired with my Chicago debut show of Twelfth Night in 2022 with Midsummer Flight, really had me thinking like, oh, this is the kind of theater I want to make. This is the kind of theater I want to do. Is queer joy, is queer stories, and it speaks to me on a personal level. And so that is how we eventually ended up to Transcript Productions. In addition to as a non-binary performer in the Chicago theater industry, it's sometimes hard to find roles that are gender affirming, that speak to me and also are affirming. And so I wanted to provide a platform for trans art and artists to do that affirming work without having to, feel like you're fighting for it, fighting for that spot at the table. And so Transcript Productions came to be soon after my co-founder Philip Merrick came to me and was like, "Tell me more," and I was like, "I would love to tell you more." So that is a little bit about us. We have done um, 3 performances. Let me count that. Yes, 3 performances since last year with our founding production of last year's Technicolor Play Festival. So we had that. We had the honor of being a part of the Micro Chicago Rhino Fest piece, and we did our staged reading of Is This All This Is by Dave Osmondson, which is the previous one that we were here to talk about for. And now we're back again with the Technicolor Play Festival. So we've come full circle since last year. It's a very exciting thing to see.
Yeah, and it's been great to see that much work in a first year for a new theater company.
Yeah.
It's, daunting, but that once you always have to kind of get through that first year, kind of get through that fire, and then once you've got that framework, it's nice, like you said, it's a full circle thing when you can come back and be like, oh hey, Tech Fest again. Here we
Yeah, no, it's definitely so fun to have this reoccurring event being the marker of our, oh, we've made it another year. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the I call it the apocryphal stage, kind of
Sure.
that kind of not really blurred gray area, but when you're doing the planning and you're out there making things and then the first
Uh-huh.
happens. What was it like again for you coming to Chicago? You mentioned kind of in our pre-interview you're
Yeah.
from East Coast. So what was it that drew you to Chicago specifically, and
Uh-huh.
then what was the beginnings of Transcript?
Sure. Well, the short answer of what drew me to Chicago is school. I grew up on the East Coast, as you said, Jersey. I did my undergrad at Miami of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio, not Miami, Florida, not to be confused. And then I did my graduate degree in history at University of Chicago. So that is technically what drew me to Chicago. Another thing that the Miami of Ohio theater program does is they have a networking event every year in the fall for seniors to Chicago. Now, I unfortunately was a senior during COVID, so our trip was canceled. Yeah, we didn't get to go, but Chicago is the closest big city to Miami. And so that is naturally where a lot of recent graduates tend to go before dispersing elsewhere throughout the country. So that, that's kind of what drew me to Chicago. I moved with a couple of friends from the theater department, and I grew to love the theater industry so much. It's just such a unique space, and I don't want to leave. But yeah, in terms of planning for the first event, year one is always a huge learning curve. And, so there are a lot of kinks and challenges that we had to overcome, especially as we started planning for our first Tech Fest in March of last year. And for that to start planning in March and then go up in June is a very tight turnaround. So there was a lot of a little bit of tearing our hair out, a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of stressing. But we managed to pull together an incredible cohort of playwrights and of actors. And honestly, we were surprised at how many people wanted to be involved with this first production of this production company that has no reputation to its name at this point. And I think that speaks to our mission and our desire to get more trans artists and trans work out there. There are a lot of people who are very excited about that and excited to work with us because of that. And it's such a heartwarming thing to see. And it really does make all of the stress and the tight turnarounds of things that, there's this other thing that we have to account for that we didn't even think about 2 weeks ago when we really should have been thinking about it. It makes it really worth it to go through all of that planning. Just to see the excitement on people's faces to engage with all of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it speaks to I'm just kind of reminded that each process it kind of weirdly follows its own life cycle,
Yeah.
it's this weird kind of give and take, at least for me with Micro Chicago. It feels like you can't really you can push the ball right, and then the ball will roll, and then you have to try and keep it, and it'll the projects are living beings in and of themselves is what
it's like the bumper rails on a bowling alley. You push the ball and it's just gonna bounce back and forth, and new challenges are gonna arise, and it's like, all right, emergency meeting. How do we deal with this?
But so if I understand correctly, this was a virtual festival, right?
Mm-hmm. And it will be again this year.
Will be again this year. Tell me a little bit about that. What's kind of what was the impetus for keeping it virtual, and then producing as a virtual production?
Well, I mean, it's called Technicolor Play Festival, which is a callback to the Technicolor film process, where they would go and colorize films and whatever. And so having some virtual aspect of it is kind of inherent in the name. But for us, it's a lot of logistical reasons, just because we are a small theater company. We can't pay hundreds of dollars to our artists. It's me trying to justify asking for the time and the talent of these incredible people and very talented people to do this work for little pay, or as much as we can afford, right? And so that's a part of it, and it's also accessibility, right? We are able to produce this work and have it be seen by people in other countries. I was monitoring the chat during one of the performances of last year's Tech Fest, and somebody typed in, it was like, hey, I'm streaming from Canada. Your audience is international. This year we have an actor of ours who's based in London. And so yeah, which is very exciting. We got people from the East Coast, we've got people from the West Coast participating in this. And so that's another huge reason too, is to keep that accessibility and being able to share this art, not just with the local Chicago community, but also globally, really. No matter how small that global population is. But we just were able to share this on a much larger scale. And you know, we are going to try and plan for an in-person event too, but I think we will have, you know, some virtual aspect connected to it so that we can keep that accessibility and keep that community connected that we have. But that's those are questions for a later date.
Yeah, well, I think it's so because I did another interview recently where the folks were also mentioned that they were in school when COVID happened, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very like admirable and just interesting that there's still that element that kind of comes from your body of work back in school and like keeping that around because I think Zoom theater for all it's
Yeah.
like I think there is something untapped in that space.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, it's not always going to be perfect, but I think it's a really unique opportunity to again access a broader community and touch a much wider audience base, and bring more voice and more life to these stories.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, the process of putting this kind of new festival together. Like what you
Yeah.
say you started in like March and then the thing went up in June. Like
Yeah.
what was that like a year ago and like what are some of like the positives that you've taken from that process and yes and did or what are
Yes.
some of the things that you were kind of like, we don't need to do that this year?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that we were like, we don't need to do that this year is the planning part. I know, and you know that comes with it being the first show versus now we have a year of experience, so we have more time built in just naturally to plan. Like we could start planning this a year ago, if we wanted to, because we were a company a year ago versus we weren't last March. You know.
Yeah.
But so the general process is we provide our playwrights with a series of prompts, and we have an overarching theme every year. So last year's theme was coming of age, and this year's theme is defiance. So we come up with a series of prompts based on both of, or not both of, but like that overarching theme. And we break them down into themes and moments. So themes are like the overarching influence for the piece, and then each playwright can either randomize by rolling a d20 or choose. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the rolling the d20 thing. We did a lot of that this year actually, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
And or they can choose up to 3 moments that are more like objects or things that are to appear in your play in some kind of way. So I think one of our moments is a book of mysteries, or something like that. And so that is going to appear in a work in some kind of way, and it's completely up to the prerogative of the playwright how they want it to appear. And this is just to help provide some creative guidelines, so that we're not just throwing playwrights into the deep end, you know, in this month-long process, which is, you know, generally speaking, a short amount of time to write a completely original piece, you know.
Yeah.
So we have these guidelines in place. Philip's bread and butter is helping to develop new works, and so that became a huge part of this process. And I think one of the things that we changed from last year is we added one more like check-in or meeting for the playwrights, just so that we could help provide the support that they needed a little bit better to develop this work in a month. And also for us to be like, hey, this piece is going to be 20 minutes. We need you to cut back. Or, hey, this piece is like 2 minutes. We're looking for a range of 8 to 10 or 8 to 15. And how can we help you expand it? And that kind of stuff. And then we also added, one of the challenges of Zoom theater is working with all the audio. And so there are things that we came across last year in plays like, loud dialogue and whatnot that, the audio was cutting out for. And we're like, okay, we're gonna troubleshoot this as best we can. But this year we're like, just don't include it. Just don't overlapping dialogue, music, stuff like that. Places where characters need to speak at the same time. Just don't include it because it's not going to translate well to the medium that we have. As cool as that stuff can be, I know there are limitations, unfortunately, that we have to implement. And then again, this year we added one more rehearsal for that to be just our like, we're setting up our sound equipment rehearsal. We're not even taking a look at the material just yet because the final drafts aren't due for another couple of days. This is just for us to set up your audio so we aren't rushing to do that and taking time out of like our rehearsal process or losing time in the rehearsal process to get us set up together. And so those are two major things that we changed from last year just because of the challenges and the kinks that we had to work out. And I think it's going to lead to a smoother process and hopefully an even better production. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, just hearing you describe it, it's like, Zoom theater is a beast in and of itself.
Yes.
Right. It's like a totally new language in theater that we didn't even realize.
Right.
There. What are some kind of highlights from the previous year and like show wise or just from a producer standpoint? What were some of like the little like light bulb, like that was cool? And like, what are, without spoiling too much, like what are some things you're looking forward to in this next year?
Sure. See, from last year, we just had some incredible pieces. But one of our pieces, the one that we actually did for the Rhino Fest installment, that playwright, Abby Goldberg, found another playwright to partner with and develop that piece even further. And it had a production that went up in California fairly recently. And so that's kind of what we want this to be, a starting point. And if the playwright wants to continue on with the piece, then by all means, they're more than welcome to. They have the right to do that. And if they want to just let it lie, they can let it lie, but that's just such a cool tidbit that I found out fairly recently. And awesome. We're talking to that playwright so that we can, because I think we missed a live streaming of it. So we're talking to that playwright so that we can see it. But yeah, so that's definitely a huge highlight. And I think for this year, what's really cool about having a cohort of people working off of the same prompts is that there's so much range and different ideas that get implemented to the same theme, right? You could have, and we do have people working off of the same prompt, and you wouldn't be able to tell unless, you were paying really close attention and knew what the prompts were and like knew ahead of time. It's just the different ways that people interact with those prompts is so incredibly fascinating to see. And I'm so excited to see how it all turns out and comes together.
Yeah. Well, and I think that speaks to the theme of the name of the festival, right?
Yeah.
Technicolor. So many different shades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, what is your hope kind of looking ahead, past Tech Fest and like what kind of expect in the next year or so? And
Sure.
what's the hope for continuing to just promote and create opportunity for trans folks?
Yeah. So we have a lot of stuff on the back burner right now. Not necessarily on the back burner, but in the works. That's a better phrase. We have a lot of stuff in the works right now. One of those is a partnership with Black Cat Theater for a found space production. It's going to be another festival, but we're in the early planning process for that.
Cool.
And I'm super stoked about it. I think it's going to be a really, really cool project, but that'll be a one night event. And we are also working on our first fully developed production, which is an audio drama that is another piece from last year's Tech Fest. So we're working with that playwright to expand on that piece for a full 3-act production. I was actually just in a meeting for that earlier today. And we are excited for that production as well. So those are two really cool things that we have coming up in the next year or so. Obviously, this year's Tech Fest and next year's Tech Fest. And you know, for putting more trans work out there, you know, just doing more, just doing more, and expanding our network and meeting new people and meeting new artists that are doing really cool stuff, and finding ways to incorporate like different styles of performance into our production company, leaning more into the guerrilla aspect of theater and maybe a little bit more into performance art, because we do have a kind of politically aligned mission, and those methods of performance inherently speak to political landscapes. Yeah.
Well, I'm stoked to see what comes in the next year, and I'm stoked to watch Tech Fest this June. Yeah. So thanks again for sharing a little bit of your time to chat about all the good work. Now we're gonna pivot into a lightning round because I've made you talk enough. We're gonna do some short answer questions. We're doing what we call our microbites. So these are just rapid fire questions, just right off impulse. What is one creative epiphany or light bulb moment that you've had?
Yeah, I think I spoke to this earlier, but just that moment of, this is the work I want to do. This is it. This is where I want to be in the theater industry. Just doing that show with Midsummer Flight in 2022 and working on the Lightning Thief musical and seeing just the absolute joy and meaningfulness that came out of those productions, and how personal they were to me. Just that moment of being like, okay, this is where I want to settle myself.
Yeah, not a light bulb, a lightning strike.
If you exactly.
We are currently working our way across the L here in Chicago with the L cycle. So I have to ask, do you have a favorite line or spot on the L?
Listen, I gotta say the Brown line. I'm not gonna lie. I do love the Brown line.
The best views.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
What was the last script or piece of text you were working on, writing and or reading?
Too many is the that. In terms of working on, oh gosh, what did I open recently? I'm a historian, and I you know, applied for PhD programs, and I'm going to apply again next cycle, but working on stuff that aligns with my thesis, which is an attempt to introduce a new methodology of doing queer research, particularly in the pre-Stonewall era, focusing on the actions and language that people use, instead of being like, oh, they didn't have the words that we have now, and thrown up the flag and thrown in the towel and calling it that, or focusing solely on, like, you know, sexual relationships, which is, you know, important and groundbreaking to do, but there's more to the queer experience than just romance and sexual interactions, you know? So yeah, writing something that expands on my thesis for that.
Nice, nice. What was the last thing you watched, either theatrically or on the
Yeah.
many streaming services?
Critical Role is the Mighty Nine, which is my favorite campaign that they did. It's their second campaign, and they are adapting it to a oh my goodness, blanking on the word, an animated series.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
also, huge fan of the American Revolution documentary that Ken Burns put out not too long ago.
So good.
Haven't finished it, but it is so good. The little bit that I've seen.
And I hope they win. What is a piece of advice for the fledgling producer?
Do it.
Just do
Not
it.
to go Nike on you, but just do it. Um,
Yeah.
you're gonna have your challenges, but you're gonna have your challenges in any piece of theater that you do. That's kind of inherent in work. If you are passionate about it, get your friends together, find a found space, and do it. Um, it don't just don't be afraid of the work. Producing is a lot of work, but it is very rewarding as well. And yeah, don't let the work daunt you because the time's gonna pass anyway. So do
Yeah.
it.
Do it. Do you have a dream show that you want to perform in, direct, or produce in the future?
So the Lightning Thief was one of them. So I've checked that one off the box. Anastasia the musical is also another one. I love that movie growing up, and being able to perform in that show would be. I have my hot takes about it, but I would love to be in that show.
Heck yeah. I feel like it might be the same answer, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. What is a favorite Chicago theater experience that you've had?
Sure. Um. Oh, Tony Stone at the Goodman was so good. It is
Oh,
about the first woman to play baseball in the Negro Leagues. And as someone who played softball in high school, oh my God, just the way that they intentionally went out and looked for athletes to participate in that. And it is so clear. All of the drills that they did on stage were so spot on. The projections were, I'm not usually a huge fan of projections in theater,
mhm.
but they worked it in really well with the set. The projections were like just the scoreboards, and it was such a cool show to see. I loved that show, and I bought a copy of the script for myself and my dad because he's a huge baseball guy. So
Amazing.
yeah,
What is one of your favorite spots in the city?
the lake. I love the beach. So beach.
Mm. And then what's your favorite springtime activity now that things are starting to warm up?
Yeah, being able to be outside and get back on my bike. I'm looking forward to that. Um, yeah, I might need to inflate some tires, but getting back on my bike for sure.
Truly. That's on my docket for today since it is so nice.
Yeah.
But speaking of getting out and experiencing the weather, I'm gonna let you go. I just want to say thank you again so much for
Of
setting aside
course.
some time to chat with us about yourself and about transcript and about the upcoming Technicolor Play Festival. We're really, really stoked to see it
Yeah.
again.
Tickets are
And
live. Link can be found on our website or through the link tree in our Instagram. But yeah,
heck yeah. And yeah, when are those coming up? A little shameless plug. Like what are you
yeah.
on, what's coming up for, or what are the dates and how can folks get more involved?
Yes. So our performances are June 12th to the 14th. All performances at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Got to be particular about that because we got people from different time zones
Yeah.
potentially streaming in and participating. Um, Again, you can get tickets on our website, transcript-productions.com, or you can find it through the link in our bio. We've got a little link tree linked in there. We have 1 week left to find some actors. Auditions will close May 17th. So if this goes up before May 17th, you've got at least 1 week to get some auditions in. And yeah, oh, we also have Script Lab, which is our monthly reading series that our good friend Taylor Stogberg is taking the lead on. There's a participation form on our website that you can fill out if you want to either submit a script or just be a participant to give some feedback and see some really cool theater. But that is a way to get involved with the company as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Maddy. It's great to chat with you again.
Yeah, of
And
course, you too.
can't wait to see Tech Fest.
Yeah.
And
Me neither. It's going to be great.
Heck yeah. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us as we continue to explore the infinite space of small.